Well, I think social media has to be on there because of the rise of influencers and content creators covering it through online. I think that's had a big effect on the game of golf. No matter how you look at it, look at Good today. I saw an announcement out today. They've now got a PJ Tour event that they connected to. Like, I just think that where these professional golf tours were 10, 20 years ago, and how they used to just be so focused solely on the individual professional golfer, the rise of the influencer space has made it so much more competitive for people's attention that the tours now have to include influencers as part of their marketing message to drive the eyeballs, which is why you see some of these key guys, pitch up at the Pro-Am at Wentworth and so on and so forth, because it drives awareness, it drives eyeballs, and that's what the broadcasts and the tours need. So I think that the influencer market has to go on the list because they have had a dramatic impact on the game as a
I'm
whole.
not sure about that because at the end of the day, if you go back in time, I passed an advert the other day, way back, California, Palmer Valley, which is, of course, about an hour from here. And there were all these celebrities at that event. So I would say that kind of attention has always been there. It's just that the people that like the AT&T Pro-Am, that's always been there. The Bob Hope has always been there. There's always been Clint Eastwood in golf. There's always been a connection.
Yeah,
Sean
but
Connery
those
in
those
golf.
only those only made that one event popular, shall we say? Whereas now, you look at your guys' content that you guys create all the time. You get millions and millions of impressions and views every month. So when broadcasters are looking at that and comparing that to their channels, you guys are becoming competitive. You're a competitor to the PJ Tour because you are part of the attention draining span that detracts people away from watching the PJ Tour. Now, you could argue that there's a big market in terms of the second screen. So people watch PJ Tour golf, but they're also flicking through their phone and watching content. And I think that's really common. It certainly is in my household. So I can see, I just personally think that it's all additive to the game. And in some cases, it detracts from the game. So where there's more collaboration, where there's more cohesion amongst the governing bodies and some of the top level influencers, I think it can be a really powerful thing if done correctly and not sidelined. But that has had an impact on the game commercially and where the financing of the world is. It's definitely changed it all. Like more and more company, look at TaylorMade's a great example. They've invested quite heavily in that space compared to other brands 10 years ago. They were really the first ones to kind of champion that influencer model and actually build out programs specifically dedicated to it. Adidas have a huge program related to that now. So when you look at it across the board, I think it's had a big effect on the game of golf because it's creating different revenue streams, creating different financial models. It's creating different avenues for companies to market their messages. So yeah, I
So
think
here's
it's
a
got to make the
question.
list. I can't believe it can't.
Here's a question for you, Darren. Well, actually, I was going to say I think I know what your answer is, but I don't know what your answer is. Obviously, European Tour, it's always the European Tour, it's not the DP. Probably declining in terms of the names on it, the viewers watching it. And then you've got the emergence of, Good, you've got Grant, you've got Rick, you've got Pete. Can you see, fast forward a few years' time, maybe 5 years' time, can you see a point where potentially there are 4 or 5 tournaments hosted and playing in that are just creators like Grant, like Rick, like Pete, and they're starting to draw more attention, more views, more sponsorships than the DP World Tour?
Absolutely. It's already started. That wave's already begun. And the longer there's no deal between Live and PGA, the worse it's going to get for the European Tour. Because European Tour will either be the beneficiary or the casualty. So depending on that dynamic and that relationship, the European Tour is less and less and less a viable sponsorship opportunity if you're a brand. That's the lens that I'm looking through, pretty close to the action. And I see it all the time, declining viewership numbers. You go to some of the tournaments, there's no fans there. It's no longer what it was. Your best 10 players every year. We mentioned Marco Penge last week. He's off to the PJ Tour next year. Like all of these players that are emerging as future stars are just moving. So the PJ Tour are depleted of a lot of their talent. Now, in one breath, I'm saying that, in another breath, I'm saying Tommy Fleetwood just won in India last week. But who's driving that? Because there's appearance fees that get paid. The title sponsor will make sure that the Rorys of the world, Fleetwood, Shane Lowry, etc., are playing in those tournaments because they know that's going to drive the eyeballs and that's going to drive up their sponsorship revenues. But the reality is the tour players are not going to play a 40 event schedule. They're just not going to do that. So there's too many tours. So you're ultimately going to have to choose one tour, PGA Tour. And the reason why some of these players are playing the European Tour, who are European, is because of the Ryder Cup. So can I see a time where we start to see more of these influencers have more involvement in the tour events? Absolutely. And Goodgood's announcement this morning is already the starting point of that. Do I think it'll ever replace anything when it comes to the majors and the significant tournaments, the ones that people's careers are ultimately measured against? No, I think they will stay. They might evolve slightly and then modify slightly, but they are out and out tournament professional tournaments, and they should be the ones that would win those events, if that makes sense.